The wind that night carried dust and silence across the Arizona desert. The kind of silence that made every coyote's cry feel louder, every rustle in the sagebrush heavier. Thomas Carver, a rancher hardened by years of sun, cattle, and solitude, sat by the dim light of a lantern in his small ranch house, sipping on black coffee he didn't need but drank anyway just to keep himself company. He was not a man who expected visitors, especially after sundown. That was why the sudden knock on his wooden door jolted him upright. It was soft, hesitant, nothing like the forceful bang of a cowboy, looking for whiskey or a drifter hunting shelter. This was different, almost fragile. Thomas set his cup down, his hand brushing against the Colt revolver resting on the table, a habit more than a threat. Slowly, he walked to the door and pulled it open. There she stood, young, shivering, wrapped in a tattered blanket that had seen too many miles and too many tears. Her dark eyes glistened like wet obsidian under the moonlight. She whispered, her voice trembling yet desperate, "Please, let me stay with you tonight." Thomas studied her. An Apache girl, maybe 16 or 17, her long black hair tangled, dust clinging to her face, and fear etched into every line of her expression. He knew enough about the territory to understand what her presence meant. An Apache girl alone in the night spelled trouble, either for her or for him, maybe both. His ranch was far from the towns, far from the forts, and Apache raids had always been a whispered danger. He could shut the door, pretend it never happened, keep his life simple. But as the girl stood there trembling, Thomas felt something stir inside him. Maybe it was the memory of his own daughter who never lived past her first winter. Or maybe it was the loneliness that had clawed at him for years. Whatever it was, he couldn't turn her away. "Come in," he said at last, his voice steady. She stepped inside slowly, clutching the blanket tighter. The ranch house smelled of leather, wood smoke, and coffee. A small world of safety compared to the cold desert outside. She looked around nervously, like a rabbit ready to bolt. Thomas motioned toward the chair by the fire. "Sit, you look half frozen." She obeyed but said nothing, staring into the flames. For a long while, silence filled the room, broken only by the crackle of burning logs. Finally, Thomas spoke. "What's your name?" Her lips parted, but hesitation held her. Then softly she answered, "Naya." He nodded. "Naya, I'm Thomas. You can stay for the night, but I need to know, are you alone?" A flicker of pain crossed her face. She looked down, her hands tightening around the blanket. "My people gone. Soldiers came, fire, shots, I ran. Only me now." Her words were broken, but Thomas understood enough. The U.S. cavalry had struck again. Another clash in the endless war of land, culture, and survival. Naya was a survivor of something that no one should have seen. Thomas's jaw tightened. He'd seen too much blood in his time to take sides anymore. He only knew that an innocent girl was sitting in his chair, broken but alive. "You'll be safe here tonight," he said firmly. She nodded, but her eyes remained haunted, always glancing toward the door as if expecting the night itself to break in. Thomas busied himself with small tasks, pouring her a cup of warm milk, laying a blanket on the spare cot, pretending that this was just another night. But deep down, he knew it wasn't. The desert had delivered something unexpected to his door, and life on the ranch would never be the same. As the fire dimmed and the wind howled outside, Thomas caught her whispering something in Apache. Words he couldn't understand, but he understood the tone. It was a prayer, fragile but determined, a plea to whatever spirits still listened. He turned away, letting her keep her dignity, but his mind churned with questions. Who would come looking for her? What danger did this bring to his ranch? And why, of all places, had she found her way to him? The night stretched on, uneasy, but alive with new meaning. For the first time in years, Thomas felt like he was no longer just surviving. The land, he was part of something larger. And as he finally drifted to sleep in his chair, one thought lingered. Sometimes, fate doesn't knock, it whispers. And if you enjoyed this first chapter, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next part of this Wild West tale. Dawn broke with streaks of crimson across the horizon, painting the desert in fire. Thomas woke to the sound of pots clattering in his kitchen. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, and for a second wondered if last night had been a dream. But there she was, Naya, her hair loosely braided now, standing barefoot on the wooden floor. trying awkwardly to prepare cornmeal over the stove. She turned when she heard him stir, her dark eyes wide, almost guilty, like a child caught stealing. "I make breakfast," she said softly, her accent heavy but her intention clear. Thomas pushed himself up from the chair and smiled faintly. "That's my job around here, but I appreciate the effort." She gave the faintest smile, a rare glimpse of warmth breaking through her guarded face. It struck him then how young she truly was, just a girl, yet burdened with the weight of survival. The morning carried a stillness, the kind that only came before trouble. Outside, the cattle grazed peacefully, unaware of the storm brewing in human hearts. Thomas ate the simple meal Naya offered, though it was burned around the edges, and she sat across from him, quiet but watchful. "What will you do now?" he asked gently. Naya looked down. "No family. No people, only me. Maybe go north. Mountains safer." Her words held little conviction. Thomas leaned back, staring at the girl who had stumbled into his life. He could let her go, wash his hands clean, return to his quiet solitude. But the thought of her wandering the desert alone gnawed at him. "You can stay here for a while," he offered slowly. "Help around the ranch. It ain't much, but it's safer than running blind." Her eyes lit briefly with something, hope, or maybe just relief. She nodded. "I work. I learn." And so began a fragile partnership. The days turned into small rhythms, Naya feeding chickens, hauling water, listening carefully to Thomas's instructions. She learned quickly, her quiet strength surprising him at every turn. Yet the shadow of danger never left. Riders had been seen in the distance, soldiers and scouts. Word spread in nearby towns of an Apache girl who had escaped a massacre. Whispers carried faster than the wind in the desert, and Thomas knew it was only a matter of time before someone came knocking again. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Thomas found Naya sitting on the fence, staring west. "Why'd you come here?" he asked finally. She hesitated, then spoke. "I saw light, your fire. I was cold, afraid. I prayed to spirits, and they showed me the way." She looked at him then, her gaze steady. "You opened the door. Others would not." Thomas felt a lump rise in his throat. He thought of the years of loneliness, of his wife buried on the hill, of the daughter he'd lost. Perhaps it wasn't chance at all that brought her here. Perhaps it was a second chance, one he hadn't known he needed. But fate in the Wild West was rarely kind. The very next day, 3 riders approached the ranch, dust trailing behind them. Thomas's heart sank as he saw the glint of cavalry sabers in the sun soldiers. Naya froze, her hand clutching the fence rail tight. "Stay inside," Thomas ordered. She shook her head. "They come for me." "I not hide." He admired her courage, but fear gripped him. The soldiers reined up, their leader scanning the ranch with cold eyes. "Morning, rancher," he called. "We're looking for an Apache girl. Escaped from the reservation. Dangerous one. You seen her?" Thomas stood tall, his face a mask. In that moment, 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind. The truth, the lie, the risk. Behind him, Naya stood silently, her chin lifted, her spirit unbroken despite everything. He had a choice: betray her to the world, or stand against it with her. The silence stretched, heavy as the desert heat. Finally, Thomas spoke, his voice steady. "Ain't seen anyone out here but cattle and coyotes." The soldier studied him, suspicion in his eyes, but after a long pause, he spat in the dust and turned his horse. "Keep it that way." The riders disappeared into the horizon, leaving behind only the sound of hooves and the pounding of Thomas's heart. He turned to Naya, who was watching him with tears shimmering in her eyes. "Why?" she whispered. Thomas adjusted his hat, looking away toward the endless sky. "Because sometimes the right thing is the hardest thing. And no one deserves to be alone in this world." The desert wind swept across the ranch, carrying with it a sense of something new, hope, fragile yet fierce. From that day forward, Thomas and Naya faced the wild world together, not as rancher and stranger, but as 2 souls bound by survival and an unspoken bond. And if you want to follow more tales like this, stories of courage, compassion, and the untamed Wild West, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and stay with us on this journey